Okay, I am going to talk about the big Moille, Illinois train wreck on the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad in April of 1905. Here in the Sun Bulletin paper, I dug up an old article and I am going to read it for you. Wreck at Moille. Freight train runs into open switch Sunday night. Brakeman dies and engineer and fireman badly burned. Explosion of car of oil follows wreck. Town in danger. One person was killed and two injured in a wreck on the Clinton branch of the Burlington Railroad at Moille at 11:30 o'clock Sunday night. A westbound freight train ran into an open switch on Main Street and 6 cars were thrown into a pile on the crossing. Next to the engine was an oil car which exploded from the concussion and set fire to the heap of wrecked cars. The engineer, firemen, and head brakemen who were in the cab at the time had to crawl over this burning debris and suffered frightful injuries. Word was at once telegraphed to Mendota and the fire whistle blown. The firemen responded and were taken to the scene in fast time. Some of the men returned and secured hooks and ropes, and back to Moille the cars went again. It was also morning when the village was out of danger of being burned up. The sight of the wreck, the burning cars, and the prayers of the brakemen calling for death to relieve him of his pain was heart-rending. Mr. Johnson was well known in Mendota. He was a young man of excellent habits. The train was in charge of conductor Briggs, who resides on Fifth Avenue in this city. He was severely shaken up, but is now on duty. The dead: Carl Johnson, brakeman, Davenport, aged 30 years, died from severe burns in all parts of the body. The injured: William Lambert, engineer, Davenport, side and back badly burned. Jack Whining, fireman, Davenport, limbs, body, and arms severely burned and face badly blistered. Cause of the wreck: there were 2 freight trains due in Moille about an hour apart, one eastbound and the other westbound. The eastbound train passed through Moille a little after 10 o'clock. A brake beam on one of the cars had broken loose and was dragging along the ground. For several rods, it made a deep track along the side of the rails and in some places knocked out large chunks of the ties. When this beam passed over the switch on the westbound track, it struck the switch and threw it wide open. About a half-mile east of the station, a brakeman walking over the cars felt the jar of the beam as it bounced along the ties and stopped the train and had the broken part removed. About an hour later, the westbound freight from Mendota came along running at about 30 miles an hour. It struck the open switch and was thrown into a heap. There were 13 cars in the train and but 5 of them were saved. The engine was thrown on its side and badly damaged. Immediately following this crash of the breaking timber came the deafening roar of an explosion, the oil car next to the engine having exploded from the concussion. Some advanced the theory that sparks from the engine set the oil afire, but this was thought to be erroneous because of the fact that the crash of the wreck and the roar of the explosion were almost instantaneous. The 6 cars following the oil car were thrown into a heap on the burning oil tank. Among these cars was a car loaded with soft coal, which also took fire. For a time, the blazing oil spread rapidly over the surface of the ground, and it was feared that it would run to the business section. A fire alarm was turned in, and the brigade formed. By strenuous efforts, the flames were confined to the wreckage and no further damage done. A peculiar feature of the burning oil was that it found its way into the drain and ran for several blocks among the underground pipes and sewers. At intervals, the oil in these pipes would explode and blow large holes in the ground, throwing pieces of tile and turf into the air. During the 3 hours which the men spent fighting the fire, between 15 and 20 of these explosions occurred along Main Street. Injured rescued. The 3 who were injured escaped from the wreckage without aid. In doing so, they had to pass over a portion of the burning car, and they suffered intense pain from the burns that they received. Mr. Johnson, who died shortly after the wreck, fell exhausted as he staggered through the smoke and debris. He was picked up and carried to George Brown's residence and later taken to the hotel with the other 2 men where he had died. A special car bearing Dr. Chas E. and E.P. Cook and John C. Corbus of this city was rushed to the scene. Dr. Remsburg and Wyman of Moille and Miss Nettle Stone, a trained nurse, also of Moille, helped care for the men. Mr. Johnson was a single man, about 30 years of age, who lived with his parents at Davenport. They were notified of his death and came at once to Moille. The body was taken to Davenport by them on Tuesday. The other 2 men, Mr. Lambert and Mr. Whining, are older men, both residing at Davenport, where they are well known. Mr. Lambert, the engineer, who lived in Fulton, had the household goods all ready to move to Mendota, but will not come until he is better. Traffic resumed. Before 4 o'clock in the morning, a wrecker from Aurora was on the scene and at work. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the tracks were cleared and traffic resumed. The iron trucks and metal parts were removed and the remainder burned at the side of the track. The cars were loaded with merchandise, but little of which was saved.